Thank you. And the music was absolutely beautiful. It almost made me tear up. Sorry, I'm not sure if, for those of you who know me, I tend to get a little emotional. So why did you do that? No. I have to admit, when Pastor Wooden asked me if I would speak, and it seems so long ago, I think it may have been back in April, I was pretty nervous about it, but how do you say no to Pastor Wooden? And again, we as in the college, Grand Rapids Community College, we have such a wonderful partnership with Fountain Street, and we're very fortunate to have such a great neighbor. So I'll just start out by just sharing a little bit about myself and then the work that we do at Grand Rapids Community College. And first, let me introduce my daughter, Allison. She's with us here. She just graduated from City High, and she's getting ready to go off to the University of Michigan. So that's a pretty proud thing in our family. She'll be the first one going off to a Big Ten school. So, and she loves football too. So, okay. So, I was born in Grand Rapids, born and raised in Grand Rapids, and a little bit about my family history. My grandparents were actually one of the first Mexican families to settle in Grand Rapids, and that was back in the 1940s, so one of the first families, and they migrated here from, into the States from Mexico, and they were in Texas for a while, and then decided to come here. My grandfather was very involved in social justice issues for migrant workers, and when I was growing up, I remember going to the migrant camps with him, and he would bring them things, and he would take a lot of the different workers for their driver's license and translate and so forth. And I grew up with a family of 7 and a single parent. So back when I was growing up, there weren't that many Latinos in the community. In fact, we were one of 2 families in our school. We were one of 2 Mexican families in our school, and the only ones in our neighborhood and so forth. So things have changed dramatically as far as our demographics here as well as other places, but it was a bit challenging. So whenever things happened, it had to have been those kids, and so, sorry. I don't talk about that part much. But, so that's kind of how I grew up in Grand Rapids. We were always kind of treated a little bit inferior. So you just kind of get used to that. And as I got older, of course, and things started to change, and you realize, a lot of the injustices that are happening, you start to, speak up and, take action on that. So that's how I grew up. And then, of course, having my grandparents who were very active in the community. My grandfather actually received an award from the Pope for the work that he did, and he's in one of the history books. Not in the schools, but he's in one of the history books for some of the work that he's done, and certainly for being one of the first families to settle in Grand Rapids. So that's a little bit about how I grew up. I'm a product of the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and very proud of that. Went to Brookside, and then on to Burton, and on to Ottawa Hills High School. And so I'm very proud of the public schools and certainly support the public schools. And I started working at back then it was junior college, and just kind of worked my way up and continued to take classes as I was working. So I have been with the college for 33 years. And yes, I did start when I was 5. And so it's been a pretty exciting journey, and I've worked, the longest position I held was with our student affairs, and some of you may know Commissioner Elias Lumpkins. but I worked with him for many years, and under his leadership, we developed a lot of our diversity programs. So I'll just talk a little bit about the Diversity Center and the work that we do and why it's so important. First of all, the mission of the Diversity Learning Center is that we embrace and promote the celebration and respect of all human differences through our programs and activities in support of increased social justice and equity among all people. So what does diversity and inclusion mean to us? A lot of times when you think about diversity, a lot of us automatically think about race, and think about race, it's always black and white, but diversity to us is so much more. It's our values, it's our beliefs, our race, our gender, our age, language, physical characteristics, disability, sexual orientation, economic status, parental status, national origin, political affiliation, education, geographic origin, profession, lifestyle, mental health, weight, and any other difference. And there's many other dimensions of diversity. I just think about everything. And one of our goals in the center, and that we're very proud of in the work that we do in our programming, is that we believe that anyone that walks in the Diversity Center can somehow see their self reflected in the programming that we do. So we certainly embrace all of our community, not just certain segments of our community. So our center serves as a resource to the college and our community by collaborating with student and staff in support of inclusion. We encourage respect for differences through learning opportunities and cultural competency training offered to all of our constituents, not just internal, but we do a lot of work external. We offer a comprehensive, integrated, cross-cultural approach to diversity, inclusion, and every year thousands of our staff and students and community members benefit annually from all of our different programs, and many which receive support from our community collaboration and partnerships. We have 5 pillars to our Diversity Center. One is the educational program, which includes training and staff for students, and our diversity lecture series, which we're very proud of. And I have to say that Fountain Street is a very supportive partner in the lecture series. Can I just ask if any of you have attended any of the diversity lectures? A lot of you. And when we first started that, we're going on our 19th year. When we first started the lecture series, I remember we held it in the Learning Center in the multipurpose room, and it would seat about 150. And I remember the first few lectures, there was a handful of people, and it was like, you can get discouraged, but at the same time, it's like, okay. One of the things I learned from Dean Lumpkins is it doesn't matter if there's 100 people there or 5 people there, because the people are there. The people there want to be there, and hopefully they'll go away with some type of learning. So I always keep that in mind. Now there's times where it's just packed. I mean, there's been times where Fountain Street has been, filled to capacity with a few of our speakers. So from there, we moved over to the Applied Technology Center, and as many of you know, GRCC does not have a facility large enough, a lecture hall large enough. So we partner with Fountain Street on that, and we're very fortunate that that Fountain Street is here as a neighbor, and that we're able to do that, and we've been able to offer that lecture series because of our community partners. We receive very limited funding from the college for that series, so the majority of the money is raised externally, not just for the lecture series, but for all of our programs. So we do a lot of fundraising to be able to provide those programs for our community and those learning opportunities. But it's amazing how much that program has grown, and we'll be rolling out the new series shortly. We've just finalized all of the speakers, so we have another amazing year of speakers. So hope to see all of you there at this upcoming year. We also are the home for the Giants Banquet. Are any of you familiar with the Giants? Every January we honor African Americans that have been significant role models, leaders, and change agents in our community. And that is a program that's been happening for 28 years, so we're really proud of our Giants banquet, and that's grown significantly, where we now host it at the DeVos Place. Every year we host a Latino youth conference, and we bring in around 700 eighth graders throughout the district for this conference. And it's called Latino Youth Conference, but it's open to all students. And that's been an amazing conference. We bring students on our campus for a day of learning, workshops, how to study in college, what does your GPA mean, self-esteem. And, again, for a lot of these students, they don't get these types of opportunities to participate in conferences, and some of them have never been downtown or have been on a college campus. So it's been pretty significant. And what we're seeing now, because the conference has been going on for so many years, is a lot of the students that were once participating are now receiving scholarships and are now even coming back to present at the conference. So that's pretty cool when you talk about sustainability and impact. In fact, one of our students last year who came, one of our presenters was a Gates Millennium Scholar, and she's now Dr. Jessica Cruz at Ferris State University, and she had participated in the conference when she was an eighth grader, went on to get a scholarship from the conference, and then she was a Gates Millennium Scholar, and now just completed her PhD and has come back and shared how important that conference was to her. But she also presented a session on how to apply for scholarships, how to check into being a Gates Millennium, and just how valuable those opportunities are for our kids, for all of our kids, but then again, especially for those who may not have the support at home, or may not have the networks or mentors. So I just share that because those are things that are really important. We also facilitate our annual Salute to Women event during March, and we do a series of programming for women and girls. In our Salute to Women, we always honor a current employee, a former employee, an alumni, and did I say current employee? And a student. How many, can I just ask how many of you are GRCC alumni, or have attended, or know somebody that's attended, or just had a child that attended? Okay, so, or have it somehow been on the campus of GRCC or attended one of their programs? So, we're a pretty significant presence in downtown and in the educational system, and we're really excited because the college will be celebrating its 100th anniversary in 2014. So there'll be a lot of really cool things happening during that year to recognize the history of the college. And then, of course, in January, our Martin Luther King programs. We facilitate the largest march in Grand Rapids, and we also have a program in the evening. And again, a lot of this is with collaboration. We collaborate with Grand Valley and Davenport. And I think I mentioned a couple of our scholarships and recognition. We have scholarships that we facilitate through the Martin Luther King program, and also the Latino Youth Conference and our Salute to Women program. So we have scholarships that we're providing through the center. Community partners, again, they're very significant to the college as a whole, but very significant to the Diversity Learning Center, because it's how we are able to run our programs and offer those services, not just internally, but externally as well. And then we also have a component which is our training and facilitation, and we facilitate the Institutes for Healing Racism. Has anyone participated in an institute? And for some, that is a life-changing experience. It's a 2-day institute, and it focuses on the history of racism in America. And for those of you that have attended, thank you. And for those of you who haven't, if you consider it, it really is a life-changing experience. And for some of you that may be in the workforce, you can possibly use that for professional development and so forth. But that's just one of many trainings that we offer through the Diversity Learning Center. We offer training on cultural competency, bullying in the workplace, difficult conversations. We do a lot of work with K-12. A few years back, we worked with Kent Intermediate School District, and they received a grant from the Grand Rapids Foundation, and we trained almost 10,000 ninth graders during a 2-year period, and we trained them to be able to facilitate, to become the trainers to facilitate in their high schools on diversity and inclusion initiatives, and that was pretty successful, and we're hoping that in the future we can do another program like that, because that was 2 years, but our goal is to be able to receive funding to be able to take a ninth grader through high school so that we can really measure the impact of what that has done throughout the years. So we're hoping to do that. Challenges. As with many organizations, and we have a lot of challenges that we're facing because not everybody believes in the work that we do and supports it. And in education system, as well as many organizations, it's always collecting data and what do the numbers say, and what kind of revenue are we generating, and how do you measure the work that we do can often be difficult, because how can you measure changing someone's heart and thought system? So we're challenged with that, and challenged because right now, we're just challenged with, again, some of those who don't believe and verbally express that they do not believe in the work that we do, and so it can be very challenging when it's time for budgets, and budgets may not be approved by the majority and so forth, and we're just being questioned on all the work that we do. And again, the work that we do is recognizing all of the community, not just certain segments of the community. And I think most of us in West Michigan know that there are challenges with various communities that we have, and those sometimes come out based on religious beliefs. So it's challenging, but we as an Institute of Higher Education need to be able to provide the education, and it would be a disservice to our students if we did not do what we do, because higher education is a place for debate, discussion, critical thought, and those issues are very important. So again, I would encourage you to kind of keep a pulse on what's happening in our community, what's happening at the community college, who's being voted into office, and who has the power to make some of those decisions, because it's really important. Another thing I just wanted to mention is just how important it is in the workplace to have a diverse workforce. And in our communities, one of the trainings that we're doing this summer is that we're training all of our interview committees on inclusion and questions to ask, what to look for, because again, you don't know what you don't know. And if you're on a hiring committee, that's a really important role to play for an organization. And we tend to kind of gravitate towards people who look like us or think like us, and that's okay. We all have our biases, and to be able to admit those is a first step. So when you're on a hiring committee, when people are making decisions and saying, oh, they're the right fit, or I don't think they'll fit in, or things like that. So we tend to look again for people that may be similar to us, and when you're in those environments, you want to make sure that you have, again, going back to diversity of thought and opinion, and not to say that I represent the whole Latino community. I don't. There are so many dimensions of diversity, and it's just important to always be aware of that. But in the workplace, making sure that you have various voices at the table, and creative minds, all of those dimensions that are going to add value to decisions that are being made, and to curriculum that may be developed, and programming and so forth. So that's a really important.